Most people board a cruise ship and immediately start thinking about which pool has the best view. They're unpacking swimsuits, making dinner reservations, maybe figuring out the Wi-Fi situation. What they're not doing, what almost nobody does, is spending 20 minutes thinking about what happens if something goes wrong on a vessel that's essentially a floating city, miles from shore, with 4,000 other people who also didn't think about it. I'm not here to ruin your vacation. I want to be really clear about that. Cruising is statistically one of the safer forms of travel, but statistically safer and completely without risk are two very different things, and the gap between them is where these 13 tricks live. Because the passengers who've survived maritime emergencies, actual fires, actual flooding, actual abandoned ship scenarios, they didn't survive because they got lucky. They survived because, at some point before the alarm went off, they knew something the person standing next to them didn't. That's what this is. 13 specific real-world tactics that survivors have used. Some of them are practical. Some of them are almost embarrassingly simple. And at least one of them is going to surprise you. The Costa Concordia disaster in 2012 killed 32 people. But over 4,000 survived. Researchers who studied survivor accounts found a pattern. A cluster of behaviors that distinguished the passengers who reached lifeboats from those who didn't. And it wasn't strength. It wasn't youth. It was preparation that happened before the lights went out. So let's talk about what that preparation actually looks like. The first trick is one that sounds obvious until you realize almost no one actually does it. Walk your muster station route before the mandatory drill, not during it. Every ship requires passengers to attend a muster drill before departure. But here's the problem. You're walking that route in bright daylight with calm seas, surrounded by crew members pointing you in the right direction. That drill is not teaching you the route. It's just confirming the route exists. What you need to do, ideally on boarding day before the crowds settle in, is walk from your cabin to your muster station yourself. Count the turns, note the stairwells, pay attention to which deck you end up on. Because in an emergency, you will not be doing this in daylight. You will not have crew members at every corner. And your brain under adrenaline is going to reach for a path it's already physically memorized. Here's trick 2, and it really does sound almost insultingly simple. Count the doors between your cabin and the nearest stairwell exit. Not approximate. Count them. Because if there is ever smoke in that corridor, and cruise ship fires, while rare, do happen, visibility drops to near zero within seconds. Passengers who survived the fire aboard the Star Princess in 2006 described feeling their way along corridor walls. The ones who reached exits fastest were the ones who had, either deliberately or by habit, registered how many cabin doors stood between them and the stairwell. 11 doors, 9 doors, 7. That number is a lifeline. Count it tonight. Elevators. This is trick 3, and it is not negotiable. In any ship emergency, the elevator is the last place you want to be. It seems obvious when someone says it out loud, but you have to understand that in a real emergency, especially one involving fire or flooding, elevators lose power unpredictably, they can become traps between decks, and they concentrate people in a space with exactly one exit. Every maritime safety manual says the same thing. Stairs only, always. The issue is that cruise ships are designed for passenger flow, which means elevators are everywhere and stairs are tucked away. Find your nearest stairwell on day 1. Use it occasionally, just so it's familiar. When things go wrong, your feet will go where your memory tells them. Now, the life jacket. Trick 4 is about actually knowing how to put yours on. Correctly, quickly, in the dark, under stress. Here's something that might catch you off guard. A significant percentage of passengers who have ended up in the water during maritime incidents were either not wearing a life jacket or were wearing one incorrectly. The tapes were loose. The collar wasn't secured. The light attachment was disconnected. The demonstration at your muster drill is performed by a crew member who has done it hundreds of times in good lighting with no urgency. Take 3 minutes in your cabin on the first day and actually try it yourself. Pull it out from under the bed or the closet, wherever your ship stores them, and put it on. Tighten everything. Figure out where the whistle is. Figure out where the light activates. You are going to feel slightly ridiculous doing this. Do it anyway. Trick 5. Know which side of the ship your cabin is on, and what that means for lifeboat access. Ships have port side and starboard side, and your designated muster station and lifeboat are assigned based on your position. But, and this matters, in certain emergency scenarios, particularly if a ship is listing, one side of the vessel may become inaccessible. Survivors from multiple incidents have described reaching their assigned muster station only to find the lifeboat on that side was unusable due to the angle of the ship. Knowing where the secondary assembly points are on the opposite side isn't paranoia. It's a 30-second orientation you do when you first walk the ship. Here's one that almost never comes up in standard safety content. Trick 6 is about sleeping with shoes. Real shoes, not flip-flops, close enough to grab in the dark. Not on your feet, just reachable. Because if you've ever been woken from a deep sleep by an alarm you didn't expect, your brain takes a moment to catch up. Passengers who've evacuated cruise ships in the middle of the night describe scrambling across corridors, and stairwells covered in water, spilled debris, sometimes broken glass from fallen fixtures. Bare feet in those conditions slow you down and can cause injuries that become serious quickly. This takes no time and costs nothing. Shoes near the bed. Trick 7 involves something most people genuinely don't know about maritime signaling. If you end up in the water or separated from the main group in any capacity, a signal mirror, which costs about $3, fits in a wallet and weighs almost nothing, is one of the most effective rescue signaling tools available in daylight conditions. It outranges most handheld flares in clear weather because reflected sunlight is visible for miles. 3 maritime survival accounts published in the last decade specifically mention signal mirrors as the tool that got rescuers' attention. A flare burns for a fixed time and is gone. A signal mirror works as long as there's sun. Tuck one in your travel bag. You'll never think about it again unless you need it. Let's talk about what actually happens to someone who goes overboard. Because Trick 8 is about surviving those first 4 minutes. The fall itself is survivable in most circumstances. What becomes lethal is a combination of cold shock response and panic-induced exhaustion. Cold water, even water that doesn't feel extremely cold, triggers an involuntary gasping response that can cause water inhalation. The instinct is to thrash, to swim hard toward the ship, to do something. The thing that actually preserves your survival window is the exact opposite. Float. Keep your airway clear. Conserve energy. Make yourself as visible as possible. Bright-colored clothing is not just an aesthetic choice on a cruise. It's a visibility decision. And if you're traveling with family, it's worth knowing that children's life jackets have specific inflation procedures different from adults. Walk through it before you need it. Trick 9. The door heat check. This comes straight from fire survival training, but it applies directly to cruise ship scenarios. Before opening any cabin door when you hear an alarm or smell smoke, press the back of your hand, not your palm, against the door and the door frame. If either is hot, do not open that door. Fire on the other side of a closed door can be managed. Opening that door is not recoverable. Cruise ship crews are trained for this. Most passengers are not. If your door is hot and you cannot safely exit, go to your window, stay low, signal for help. This is the decision that has separated survival outcomes in documented cruise ship fire incidents. Here's Trick 10, and this one is for anyone traveling. In a group, a family, a couple, a multi-generation trip. Designate a specific separation protocol before you board. Meaning, everyone in your group should know exactly where to go if you lose each other in an emergency and cannot reach each other. Pick a specific muster station landmark, not just muster station C, something physical and unmistakable. Families that have been separated during cruise evacuations describe chaotic scenes where people ran in opposite directions trying to find each other, costing critical time. The protocol conversation takes 5 minutes at dinner on embarkation night. Have it. Something that barely gets discussed. Trick 11 is about the ship's emergency frequency and your phone's behavior at sea. Most passengers don't know that in a genuine distress scenario, cruise ships broadcast on VHF Channel 16, the International Maritime Distress Frequency. If you have any kind of marine radio or a multiband radio in your travel kit, knowing this frequency matters. Your cell phone will not help you 12 miles offshore. Satellite messaging devices, small, relatively affordable ones that have come down significantly in price over the last few years, can send a distress signal when nothing else works. I'm not saying everyone needs to travel with a full emergency kit. I'm saying that if you're on an extended cruise, particularly in remote regions like Alaska or the South Pacific, a small satellite communicator could be the gap between reaching someone and not. Trick 12 is about something called the muster card, the small card in your cabin that lists your assembly station and lifeboat assignment. Most people glance at it once and either put it in a drawer or use it as a bookmark. Survivors consistently report one behavioral pattern. They took that card seriously. Some kept it visible. Some photographed it with their phone. Some memorized the information on it the same way you'd memorize a meeting room number. It takes 30 seconds. The information on it, your station letter, your lifeboat number, your assembly deck, is the exact information you need to be moving toward in the first 60 seconds of an emergency. And trick 13. Here's the one I mentioned at the top, the under $4 item that has shown up in real maritime survival accounts. A personal safety whistle. Not the small decorative kind. An actual, high-decibel safety whistle rated for marine environments. The Fox 40 Classic, the Storm All Weather. They run between $2 and $6. They are audible at distances that shouting is not, in conditions where shouting is impossible, high wind, ambient noise, water. Every life jacket on a cruise ship has a whistle attached. But those whistles are not always maintained, not always audible, and not always attached when passengers need them. Carrying your own, clipped to your bag or lanyard, costs almost nothing and requires nothing from you except remembering it exists. Here's what I want you to take from this. None of these are elaborate. None of them require special training or expensive gear or dramatic changes to how you travel. They require about 45 minutes of intentional thought, most of which you can do on boarding day before dinner. Walk your route, count your doors, know your life jacket, know your group's plan. The gap between the people who made it and the people who didn't in documented maritime emergencies is almost never physical. It's not fitness. It's not age. It's a handful of decisions, some made months before, some made in the first 30 seconds, that were available to everyone on that ship and acted on by almost no one. You now have those decisions laid out in front of you. That matters, because 6 months from now, you could be on a ship with 4,000 people who watched the safety video and immediately forgot it. Or you could be someone who actually knows what to do in the first 30 seconds when everything else is chaos. If someone in your life has a cruise coming up, a parent, a sibling, a friend who just booked their anniversary trip, share this with them. Not to scare them, because they deserve to know what you now know. And this took you less than 15 minutes to learn. And if you want more content like this, real preparedness information without the doom, without the panic, just the specific, research-backed things that actually change outcomes, hit subscribe. I put new research out every week, and next up, I'm going into what hotel safety looks like when you're traveling internationally. The tricks for that one are just as specific, and a couple of them are going to genuinely catch you off guard. Stay safe out there.